Hi everybody, it's Barbara and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be sharing with you how I turned this metal cabinet into a beautiful piece of furniture that I could use in my craft room. And we're going to get started on it right now. I began by wiping the entire piece off with just a damp cloth to remove any dirt and debris. This was gifted to me and it was in great shape. So all I had to do was just wipe most of the debris off, and I did have a few little spots that I had to fix, which I'll show you in just a minute. To remove the handles, because I'm not going to be using these handles, I'm going to use some different handles. I just unscrewed the two screws that were in the back holding each handle on there, and then I took a flathead screwdriver and just popped that top piece out and then slid it up, and those handles come right on out. Now I had a little bit of surface rust at the bottom of the cabinet, and I'm just taking a fine grit sanding block and going over that rust. Then I went ahead and decided to just go over the entire piece because it did have a little bit of stickiness where some labels had previously been on there. Now this wasn't necessary because I'm going to be using chalk paint, but if you're going to be using spray paint to do yours, I would certainly make sure that I sanded it. Once that was finished, I went back in with a damp cloth again and wiped all of those debris from the sanding block off. I'm not going to be painting the inside of the drawers, so I just took some painter's tape and taped off the sides and then right there on the top part of the drawers just to prevent any paint from getting on there. I will be painting this piece with Krylon Chalky Finish paint in classic white. You can find this at most of your home improvement stores. I will try to link this in my Amazon store if I can, which will be in my description box. I started off with a small chalk brush just to get those outside edges of the cabinet as well as the outsides of the drawers. And yes, I did paint that keyhole because I don't have the key to it and I wanted it to blend in nice with that top piece. I also went around the handles and all of the outside rims of the drawers. For the main part of it, I used a thick chalk brush. Again, you can get this at your home improvement store or I'll try to leave it in my Amazon store. And I went over the entire cabinet. Now, I will be painting the tops and the drawers with a different color, but I wanted to start off with a consistent palette. I am trying to go for a wood grain look, and I found that it was easier for me to feather in the sides and then take the brush and make even strokes going all the way across. This will take several coats of paint because this is white paint and we're trying to cover up that brown color. This is how it looks after the first coat. I'm applying thin coats and I am making sure that it dries completely before I apply the second coat. So this is how it looks after the second coat. Now there was a little bit of surface rust coming through after the second coat. So I took some Krylon Chalky Finish clear sealing wax and applied that with a lint-free cloth over all the areas that surface rust was coming through. Then I'll flip the lint-free cloth over and wipe the majority of that wax back off just so that it will seal that in, and you'll let that wax dry for several hours before you apply your next coat. And that will seal that rust in and it won't bleed back through. And this is where I did that on the front as well, because it did have quite a bit of surface rust there at the bottom. And once you apply your next coats, you won't see that. To work on the handles, now I found these handles on a discarded dresser on the side of the road, and the dresser was in extremely poor shape, but the handles were salvageable and they were free, so I picked these up. I'm going to be attaching these to two pieces of pallet wood that I have already cut down, and they measure 3.5 inches wide. And then both pieces I cut down to 8.5 inches long. So I'm going to be centering these silver cup handles to the front of these pieces of pallet wood with the screws that already came in the handles. And I'm just going to find the center of my pallet and then I'll find the center of the handle so that I can make my markings so I'll know where to pre-drill my holes. Now where the screws go into the back of the handle, it has like a silver cup type thing at the bottom. That is where I made my markings so I would know where to drill. And here I'll just give you a little bit of a closer view so you'll know what I'm talking about. Then I'm just going to take a couple of pieces of blocks of wood that I had in my craft room so that I can put the pallet wood on top of that and I don't drill a hole through my table. I've gone ahead and put in a drill bit that is the same diameter as the screws that came with the handles, and I'm just pre-drilling where I already marked, and I did that for both. Now you'll want to make sure that your handles fit and that they're centered before you move on to applying any type of color or stain or sanding these down. I went ahead and removed my pencil marks, and now I am just sanding both of these down smooth, including the outside edges of each piece. Now I am going to be painting the drawer fronts and the top in Waverly Antique Wax because I am going for a wood grain look. I wanted the drawers and the top to look like real pieces of wood. And I'm also going to do that with the 2 pieces of pallet wood that I've cut down. I've gone ahead and taped the top off, and this is how the cabinet looks after the 4th coat. So 4 coats, and it was just a beautiful finish. Now, I am going in with the Waverly Antique Wax with a small brush, and I'm just going, this is just for the outside edges of the drawers with that small brush. And then I'm taking the lint-free cloth and wiping most of that wax off. Then I'll come in with a larger chalk brush, and I will try to leave this in my Amazon store, but you can buy it at any home improvement store. I am working in small sections at a time, and then taking my lint-free cloth and wiping the majority of that wax off, going in one direction like nice long strokes of wiping the wax off so that it gives it that wood grain look and it gives it a little bit of definition and depth. I did that for both of the drawer fronts as well as the top and then all of the outside edges of the top. Again, just go in small sections because you don't want to leave the wax on there too long. You want it to have a consistent color as the drawers. And you also want to make sure that you let that wax dry for several hours before you go in with any second coats. I went ahead and did those pieces of pallet wood in the same method, just applying the wax and then wiping most of it off. Now that my wax has dried on the drawer fronts, I'm going to go in with just my lint-free cloth, dabbing it into the wax, and then sort of like smearing it in one direction as I'm going, just to give it a little bit more depth and definition and filling in any lines or making it a little bit darker. And this is kind of giving me that wood grain effect that I'm going for. And I will do that for both of the drawers as well as the top. And if you need to make it darker or you liked it lighter, you can just leave it whichever way you like. But I'm trying to get those lines in there just to make it look like it is real wood. Again, you will want to make sure that you let this wax dry before you put on your final wax. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the tape because now it is time to apply that finishing wax. This is that same wax that I showed you earlier where I covered up those rust spots, and this is just a clear sealing wax, and this is going to seal in that chalk paint, and it's going to give it a nice velvet finish when it's done so that you can wipe it off, you can dust it. Of course, you want to make sure that wax is dry for probably several days before you go in and wipe it off or anything like that. I mean, you can wipe it off, but you don't want to go in with any kind of chemicals. You want to make sure that wax is cured and set up. So all I was doing was applying the wax with a lint-free cloth, and then I am going back over the piece with a different lint-free cloth to wipe the majority of that wax off. And you're going to have to flip your cloth around several times to make sure that you're not just smearing the wax, you're actually removing the wax. And as it's drying, you can look at it and see if you've missed any spots or if you need to go back over them. To assemble the handles, I just screwed those to the center of the pieces of pallet wood, and then I am going to apply the actual wood to the drawer front using E6000. Now, I did this instead of screwing the actual handle through the drawer because I didn't have screws that were long enough, and the holes that were in the metal cabinet did not line up with where I wanted to place my handles. So that is why I chose to use E6000 to apply the wood. I just made sure that I had it centered, and then I am going to clamp the wood on there and let that E6000 set up. And I let that set up overnight, and this piece is finished. Now, before I show you the final reveal, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. And if you enjoyed this video and you're new here, I would love for you to click that subscribe button and the notification bell, and also visit me on Instagram and my website. To all my current subscribers, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your love and support. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. You guys, I think this cabinet turned out so beautiful. Let me know in the comments down below what you think and how you think this metal cabinet turned out. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care, and I will see you guys next time.